Today's video is sponsored by the makers of The Ranchers. Check down below in the description for more information and a link to the Kickstarter, and add it to your Steam wishlist today. In October, this game will enter early access and will be available next year with co-op multiplayer up to 4 players. Build a ranch, live together, and explore. Well, hello again there, friends and fans. Raptor here, and welcome to our first look at some in-depth gameplay for The Ranchers. I can't believe it. This game, it sounds like I'm going to be stretching it when I say Grand Theft Auto, but this truly seems like Grand Theft Auto meets Stardew Valley, meets like Lens Island, and a few other wonderful survival building games that we've played in the past, with also the ability to do things with like AK-47s and like fight your friends and other things like that in this co-op multiplayer farming, building, survival simulator. I thought this would just be a type of game where it was all cutesy and you would, grow some crops and farm with your friends and sell all the crops for money and then eventually build up a big farmstead with a little bit of friendship and dating on top of that and eventually marriage. But this has blown me away. A few days ago when I saw the trailer for this one, I was thinking, no way. I had to watch it 3 times in a row to see all the different things we could do, like we can have boats and we can like go fishing and those types of things seem standard, but I never thought I'd see a game that would combine the cuteness of like Animal Crossing and the playability of Stardew Valley with some of the things you can do in Grand Theft Auto. Like, it literally seems like you could role play as being a police officer or something with your friends and actually play as if there were GTA 5 or 6 or whatnot going on. I'm blown away, truly. Today's footage is provided by the development team, by the way, so everything you see here is pre-recorded by them, and this video is pre-recorded as well in terms of me just basically speaking over everything that they do. So I've not yet gotten my hands on this game, and I'm frustrated. I dragged my feet for a few days to hope that the devs would send over a copy or some sort of an early playtest or whatnot, but they're polishing this gem, and I'm absolutely blown away as well that there wasn't a demo for this game during the Steam demo days. This game seems like more than complete, more than just like being anywhere well, this is the type of game where you could never finish it by adding quest after quest after quest after things that you can do as a player. But this honestly feels like a game made by people who love survival games and love Stardew Valley and wanted to mix a few of those things together. So a big thanks to the devs for being patient on me. They've been asking me to cover it, and the trailer alone was good enough to cover. But now that we actually get some actual gameplay and get to see the devs play, this is torture. It's torture. I want to play this really, really bad. I didn't realize how much I wanted this game. Typically on Steam and with you guys, you send me recommendations for games all the time, for building games, survival games, and especially games with friends. And the farming games are definitely probably as plentiful as the survival games, especially against zombies or some sort of apocalyptic game where you're out in the woods or something like that, building a little cabin, fishing and hunting and whatnot. But this is great to see a dynamic world with really nicely detailed farms and such. Nothing seems basic or whatnot. It doesn't seem too cute. It actually seems like there's a lot of awesome, thought-out work to this. I don't know. This is definitely the type of game where if someone was trying to make a Grand Theft Auto mod where you could also farm, this would be it. In fact, the original Grand Theft Auto game started as top-down games such as this, and then, of course, went into what we know as the third-person and sometimes first-person shooters and adventure games. But this is great. So it looks like we arrived in town on a metro train, rented a bike, and then parked at quote-unquote Tim's farm. And your standard, of course, show up, find an axe, start clearing all the land, and building a dream house for yourself. This is something I really still want from Farming Simulator, where we're given our own equipment or something like that to build our own farm. And not necessarily with placeables. In a simulator game like that, I definitely want to cut the wood, turn it into lumber, store it somewhere, and then eventually build my house. I can see if this game has placeables, but it is very satisfying to clear out a bunch of land and then eventually build a house on it, barns, things like beehives and other things to store and then eventually sell it in town. My questions here then are if this is going to be a co-op game, if we can also have our own farms or whatnot, but this is definitely one where I think I'm just going to have to put a ton of time into this one and see how things go. Looks like the quests come in via something called a blah blah app. Looks like we got money on the screen, health and energy to be concerned with. I'm also now wondering if we have to sleep throughout the night in order to skip nighttime. Definitely could be the type of game where there's not much to do at night, except for fishing, perhaps. You know, after the end of a busy day, you go to the end of the dock and try to fish for something, sell it to people in town for money. A little bit later in the game, we'll see some extra special features that the devs showed off, like cutting down trees with AK-47s. Like you literally using your guns to shoot and take down trees and whatnot. So that means this is a PvP game. If you wanted to, you can, you know, tell one of your friends to get off your land and open fire if you want to, or possibly work together in the underground, whatever that may be, against all the creatures down there. That's another thing I thought too. It doesn't seem just like a, you know, a cute little dungeon. It looks like there's actually a story down there. Like there's some sort of a legend where it's well thought out, not just go into dungeons and fight slime number 1, skeleton number 2, bat number 3, and then maybe an occasional boss. So the trailer is really promising as to what could be. Hell, I don't know. But this menu here definitely reminds me a bit of Animal Crossing, and so does the inventory and whatnot. Cool that we're starting out with a tent, and I'm also wondering how that's going to work with multiplayer. Now I just have more questions. I need to get a hold of this one because I have more questions than answers. I do have some documentation from the devs, but a lot of those things that they say are still up in the air about what we can do and when this game will be, you know, available on Kickstarter, and then eventually enter early access and betas and play tests, and then eventual 1.0 release, and then, you know, within a year the quality of life changes. I love it when a game is early access and has so many features. The sky is truly the limit then. I mean, we could have so much more to build with, in addition to all the boats and things like that we've already seen, and not to mention the hot air balloons too. So there's definitely going to be special events when it comes to going out on a hot date, or possibly spending your money on something other than structures in the town, or, well, that you can place in your farm from the town. Maybe you can go talk to somebody to build something for you, but we'll have to see how that all works out. It looks like so far, though, we're just getting some basic quests, and those basic quests will just lead to getting some basic money in order to then buy some stuff in the town. Looks like we started with a good chunk of change, though, 9,700. And that's remaining after our bike rental, which I assume would be our way of getting around town until we end up buying a truck. Looks like we can buy Ferraris in this game, trucks. It looks like Mercedes G-Wagons and stuff that we can roll around in. So that's cool. And hopefully the dev goes to town soon, because I'd love to see a little bit more of that. And it looks like that's exactly what they're going to do. But it does look like we have storage here, a dumpster, possibly utilities to pay for electricity and whatnot. Water too, especially if we're going to be watering our plants. Wow, the world looks beautiful. You can actually see under the bridge. There's some depth to the water too. That's great detailing. Love all the rocks, love the grass, love the flowers. It's really looking pretty damn good, honestly. Wow. The dev actually riding the bike on the left side of the road. Right side traffic here, but oh boy. Oh, can you actually, you could cut off all the vehicle traffic too. Oh, there's an example farm right there. Lots of chicken coops. It looks like some actual fields, some silos for storage, and it looks like a farmer's market right here, where we can get started by buying and selling things, I'm sure. Maybe seeds and things. One of our quests coming in from Yusuf right here. Looks like he's got some articles for us, possibly a farmer's almanac or something for telling us how to do certain things. Red lettuce seeds, strawberries, garlic, fertilizer, OGM fertilizer. Is that something like GMO? Boost fertilizer. So many different types. Okay, so if they put the level of detailing that we're seeing in just for the farming, again, the game's name is called The Ranchers, so obviously we can do, as you saw earlier, the chicken coops. We must be able to do something with chickens and eggs and cows and milk and beef sales and things like that. Pigs, fish maybe. Perhaps we can do a fish farm. But I would love to see this level of detailing and such within a different type of market. It would be cool that if you do this, maybe it'd be cool if one of you could get into mining, one of your friends could get into logging, and there'd be a whole production chain or a whole tree like this. When a game is reaching this far and doing so many things just at the start, I mean, the sky is the limit. Cool to start as a farmer, but then to work your way up to owning businesses within the town. Honestly, this is something that I wish we could have in The Sims. Being able to, you know, play with 10, 12, 20 friends. Everybody being able to own and build their own home, work at their own jobs. But then, if they wanted to, they could meet in a digital space where perhaps somebody else owns a, I don't know, a bar or something like that, or a diner, and can go there. And I'm sure there's mods for that, but we deserve it in the vanilla without having to buy 27 different packs and expansions and, boxes and DLCs and updates. And it's just like, man, it's a great idea to do that. And living in the year 2022, there definitely should be more simulators where we can do more things such as this, where we can work a job, build a house, simulate those types of things, and show off your creativity and also grind for it. But to do it in a way where instead of it being something like, for example, gear-based, like Diablo or Path of Exile or something like that, Lost Ark, etc., maxing out a character, it should be maxing out a property through the things that you're able to build and the things that you're able to do, clothing you're able to buy, that type of thing. Now, of course, I'm not expecting any sort of transactions for this game. It seems like everything will just come via support of the community, and the devs will have more resources to make things like hats and shirts and different paint colors for cars and different models of cars. And I'm actually kind of getting some Project Zomboid vibes here too, with how things like, for example, in that game are all about storage and inventory management and having a vehicle, keeping it running, repairing, taking parts from one vehicle to another, having a trailer and transporting things around a town. And that would be great to see here too, where if you were going to actually sell a bunch of potatoes at town, you'd have to like get your pickup truck and load that up and get another trailer there, or to haul wood around. To actually physically simulate that logistics would be fantastic. And I'm really hoping to see more games like American Truck Simulator, Euro Truck Simulator, Microsoft Flight Sim, The Sims, Star Citizen, those types of things coming together, which will never finish development then, because that's a huge lofty order. But also B, games that at least set a goal and try to match it, where there's certain things that you can build. And with this going for The Ranchers, it certainly is a good thing where there are a huge amount of people who love to grow crops digitally and water them and care for them and organize them and maximize the production of those plants and use crop rotation and whatnot in order to maximize profit, and then to use that profit to either automate or to decorate. Those are the two things that I think are the most important in these types of games, where the things become easier and easier for the player to do by all the grinding that they've done before, so they can go explore the world, such as the combat I mentioned earlier, or to decorate. So that way you can kind of show off to your friends a bit, and or at least customize things. And even though you have access to the same, artists have access to the same colors as everyone else does, but it's all about blending and shadows and such. And so this game is no exception, where if we have access to all the same tools, we can still do things differently and decorate differently. And I wonder how that'll work. I definitely would like to see everybody being able to get their own farm. It's another thing I wanted to see in games like Parkitect or Planet Coaster or Planet Zoo or Project Hospital or whatnot, where everybody can have their own space, but also you can watch what everybody else is doing and help them out. A great failed attempt at that, I think, was SimCity 2013, where unfortunately the development team had some great ideas that were strangled by EA. Having larger cities, but also being forced to work together in order to share materials is a great thing. Not all cities have access to stone quarries and lumber mills and steel mills and things like that. So things have to be purchased from other areas, imported and brought in. Things like, for example, tons of steel and cement and concrete and asphalt, and things need to be brought in for roadworks and things made and mixed on site, so that way you can build bigger and better. And games like The Ranchers have gotten me really excited for Construction Simulator coming out this year as well. I think there's a myriad, a parade of just fantastic simulator games of life coming out. I would say that even you have Star Citizen, but then of course you also have Starfield coming out too, which will simulate the travel and the life and the living of those types of situations. And so with other games out like Ranch Sim, I think it's really cool to be able to simulate economics, simulate building and crafting and storage, and of course cooperation between friends, or a little healthy competition too. And I guess there's nothing in this game that says you can't do a drive-by on a friend's, lemonade stand or something like that and be real hilarious about it. People want realism. People want tools to create their own scenarios. And people in general are just becoming more creative. If you've all seen all the different types of Grand Theft Auto RPs, then there's certainly been a lot of people simulating things like daily life and trucking and flying and doing things like that within the game. And of course, as well as, things like policing and whatnot, and emergencies. And there's plenty of those simulators too that are great teaching tools. Like, for example, all the firefighting simulators and the EMT simulators out there. People have an opportunity to learn what those codes mean and how those things work, and actually simulate those as well. So it can be a helpful tool for young people interested in getting into those fields, especially things like first responders, which are important, of course, and in high demand for all the growing populations that will require those things. And it's going to be interesting in this city on how we could grow the population too. Another thing I'd like to see in games like this would be the ability to build our own things in the style of, for example, SnowRunner. If you haven't heard of this game, SnowRunner is essentially a trucking simulator where you can deliver materials such as wood and steel to different sites on the map, and then you can build things like bridges and clear landslides and build buildings that will help you in the long run. And so it'd be really cool for buildings such as Tim's Farm here to be able to supply the local town with goods in order to grow. Another good example of this is Transport Fever 2, where construction materials and food and fuel and machine parts and tools can all be brought into cities to help those businesses grow and then to expand. A business opens more franchises, which means they need more workers. People who've moved to that town who've had families get jobs in those places. They're able to pay taxes. Those taxes go to all the local governments and whatnot. And then, of course, more services can be provided for infrastructure and airports and things like that. And it'd be amazing in this town to be able to do a cooperative project like building a large airport or a seaport or something to unlock something for everybody, which comes right back to what I mentioned about SimCity 2013, where you could build large international airports or space centers, or even in arcology, and my personal favorite, the big, massive solar panels, so that we never had to worry about power anymore. Or at least you did, but not as much. You didn't have to take up all your city space and power generation. It could just come from a large great works on the map. And I'd love to see more of that in other games. I'm starting to really enjoy the games that have you manage resources more than just managing money. as well. And I think that's another thing that's great about these games, is that you have to not only manage construction materials and money, but also food, and of course to sell high and buy low when it comes to the resources to build things, and then of course sell your crops at a higher price, because that just simply makes you more money. All right, so the devs are now going to show us some other things too. We'll be seeing things like shooting multiplayer AKs and things, shooting off, taking down trees. And this is really reminding me again of a few other games that we played this year, and I can't quite recall their names. Yeah, I think these types of simulators are good, but I've never seen something as thought out as the Ranchers. At first I thought it was just another farming game. Then I thought, oh, it's a farming game with guns. Tee-hee, they put that in. But I'm starting to see more of what I want from these games, and what I wanted from, like, for example, The Sims long ago, when it was just like the original Sims and Sims 2, where there were these online experiences where you could work and live and build in these spaces and not be limited to single player or having to have 13,000 DLCs and whatnot. And it's a great way, more than ever, for people to share things online with forums and blogs and Twitter, and making videos and live streams and building things together. So this is really cool to see, the ability to survive together. Things like, of course, eating and sleeping and farming, making money, doing it with friends. Very cool thing. Oh, looks like the character here has a backpack, so mobile storage will probably be a thing. So, of course, we'll be leveling up our property, leveling up our character, possibly eventually making weapons or buying. That'd be kind of cool, actually, to be able to get iron and be able to make tools out of it and sell it to a friend or whatnot. Really simulating an economy within your own server. That was another thing I think that drove people crazy about games like Valheim and V Rising, is that those games simulated the ability to build like a Viking city or a fortress, or doing it in V Rising, building a castle and having essentially what is available in Conan, which is to have thralls do all the work for you. Wow, they actually used a car to tip over a tree. That's badass. I wouldn't recommend that for the car especially, but it does look like there's quite a large amount of cars you can have in this game too. Trucks and Jeeps, and looks like Ferraris and other things to show off. There might be air vehicles. We've seen boats and things before. Oh, and here we have horses. No, that's not a horse. Oh my god. That's a dirt bike. At first I thought that the back end of it was actually like the horse's tail. Well, that got me good. But it looks like we get other vehicles, and that would be cool to see a snowmobile in the winter. Wow, could have a true Canadian simulator, bud. Open up a Timmy's. Ooh, modability would be awesome here. The ability for players to make their own vehicles. You could have different... Well, of course, somebody's going to have to modify this to have zombies, and then this will just become Project Rancherzoid or something like that. Then you can, survive waves of zombies while also maintaining your lovely little farm. Cool. I guess I'm going to have to see things on crop diseases in this game, too. I'd be really interested to see how that would work, a system of irrigation, and how in-depth the power management system would be for the game, too. The ability to build solar panels, store those in batteries, have those run your equipment, some automation, things like irrigation, and then things like farming with tractors would be interesting to see too. Large-scale harvesting and tilling. I don't expect we'll see anything as in-depth as like large-scale fertilizer spreaders or rock removal equipment or whatnot for all the stones that could be in a field, but regardless, I think it'll be pretty interesting to see what they come up with. Oh, and there's the ability to stack logs. Very nice. Homesteading. That is, I think... Wow, no way! You can make a stack of logs and light it on fire. Imagine that. Did not expect to see that. Well, hell. You could make a burning roadblock in the middle of town then, and use extortion in order to set up roadblocks. You could literally cause chaos. There's no police force here. You could literally block the road and start charging $50 and just leave trees on fire and block any would-be player who comes down the road. Oh, the possibilities here could be endless. Well, if anything, I'm hoping that this game really takes off and explodes in a way where a lot of support from people who will eventually play this game will lead to bigger and better development. I'm seeing a lot of great indie games, again, such as V Rising and Valheim, that get a little bit more support from publishers. They don't have the biggest budgets in the world, but if we don't support games like this, we're going to continuously end up with Diablo Immortal, and we're going to continuously end up with Battlefield 2042, and the argument will come down to graphics, when it should be gameplay, story, co-op, multiplayer, that type of thing. Like what can you do with friends? Where is the real difference between, like, where are the similar check marks we want to see for these types of games, and what sets this one apart? Another great game, for example, that I played recently is Moonlight Bay, I think is the name of it. Fishing in like a voxel world where all your fishing techniques and such very in depth. And I'd like to see that in these types of games where the techniques of hunting with, tracking an animal and scent, and the same with fishing, like, for example, the bait and the techniques and the different types of lures, however you would pronounce it. But what I really mean is that, again, all these systems, I want to see a little bit more depth to them, or the ability to set them to complex or realistic. Seeing a more in-depth farming area here. Oh, it looks like you're able to manage your animals with ropes and such. Oh, is somebody... Oh, I see. Yes, somebody purchased a cow and they loaded it into the back of the van. Wow, okay. So there is an area to buy animals, so that's similar to how it is in Ranch Sim. But I love games that are starting to combine all the other things that I've loved of other games into one. Love the traffic system here. Love that we get a car. I think in Stardew Valley at most you get a horse. So again, it would be great to see a trailer in this game being able to haul around all sorts of different goods, or to buy a dump truck or something. I don't know. And then to go into different industries. I don't know. I'm just saying, I'd love to see a game. If this were like simulator, like farming simulator and construction simulator put into one, that will be the ultimate game for me. If I can drive through town and go to work at my construction office and then quit working at the construction office to buy my own farm, or vice versa with farming and then becoming a construction worker or something, that would be fantastic. But, there's a lot of possibilities for games that just come out of nowhere and surprise everybody. In 2020, we had ourselves Valheim. And in 2022, we got V Rising. And there's all these games that come out like Core Keeper that keep us coming back for more. There's going to be a million more farming simulator games like this. Put down a plot for plants, plant those plants, water those plants, harvest those plants, and then sell the plants for money. And we're going to see a million more of those. But I think this one really stands out. And I just want to keep seeing unique features. And I think the Ranchers is going to be something to keep an eye on. Not only just for its neat little trailer, but because I really want to get my hands on this for multiplayer and see how it plays out. This would be fantastic and would show off everybody that I know in their creative ways, in their creativity. Well, that's it for now. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I will see you all next time for more on the Ranchers. Thanks again for subscribing to the channel, hanging out. Thanks for becoming members. We'll see you all soon. Again, thank you, everybody, for watching. You can find out more about the Ranchers with the links down below in the description. You can also just check it out on Steam and add it to your wish list. Download a demo, perhaps, if it appears sometime in the future. Just check the store page on occasion. And, of course, turn on the notification bell to get more updates about the Ranchers and possibly some giveaways on this and more games in the future. I'll see you all soon. Thanks for watching.